I'm working on the front coilover mounts today, and just wanted to show how I'm doing this. These are laser cut parts that I had designed. Basically, I built it off of the original motor mount flange here. That's also part of our frame, that's also part of the suspension mount. So I added onto that. You can see over here that I didn't grind this weld down at all because I do want that strength in that seam right there. However, we're going to end up capping these things all in, but I wanted to show how I'm doing this with the spacers. So I need to make sure that it's spaced evenly across the whole thing. Like, it wouldn't have to be like you'd have tapering or something, but I know I need the spacing for the coilover mount. Absolutely has to fit up here, and I just want to keep everything kind of squared up and straight because it will then mimic what I've already done on the rear of the car and kind of keep the same look going on throughout the chassis, which is also part of why I've bent these pieces up. And I should have ordered them a little bit wider because right now you can see that they sit down in here, but these are my 1.25" spacing that's required. So I know it fits nice in that the panel is spaced evenly throughout the whole thing because I can get it to set in there. But I'm going to actually have it be sitting just a little bit above so that I can fill this corner with weld and then round it to look like the rears. This will also give us, box it all in, add a ton of strength right here. Plus, this front plate is then going to be tied in. That's what these holes are up here. If I even use these for the front plate, the original 4 down here were what I was intending to mount the engine with. However, I do want it to bolt in up here also because this will be much closer to where the coilovers mount and give structural integrity across the engine bay using the engine front plate. Now, bending these boxing pieces wasn't anything special, just started out as flat plate. I did use my Swig off-road press brake for that. However, the thing is when I designed those parts, I kind of just gave everything a 1-inch radius, which is more than easy enough, even if you were just bending this 1/8 inch by hand in a vise, you'd probably be able to get the radius pretty close. So if you don't have a press brake and you just plan ahead on some of your parts, you can make sure that you can match up radiuses just by limiting yourself to not too tight of a radius. Now, once I've got these boxed in, they should be plenty strong the way they are. The coilover forces are all going to be up and down, which is going into kind of the arc of the part plus the front plate of the engine. So the forces are pushing the way they should be. There's not going to be fore and aft, front to back type of forces, at least not anything significant. But again, putting this backing plate on strengthens up the part for some of that. It's just not totally braced and fixed, and that's fine for right now because the intention is once the roll cage starts getting built with the car, we'll be tying in the front down bars somehow into the shock mounts, whether they just pass across the top or if I hook them in and they just, I don't know, they're gonna integrate somehow, even if they're up here. Again, we've got our holes to bolt onto the front plate. We can always add another bracket where everything just kind of bolts together. We just want to make sure that the front plate is removable for being able to work on the engine and stuff. As long as wherever cage tubes end up, we can integrate it in without it being an issue, it won't be a problem. Got them welded up now. The big thing here is, this is a good example of why I make these spacers in here a little bit wider than what the finished product needs to be, because I can't take the spacer out. The weld has shrunk and pinched on it. And I make the spacers about 30 thou wide. It's just kind of a number I've come up with there where, it'll be able to still be just a little bit of clearance to the final part so that when you bolt it down, it'll pinch tight. but it's not a huge pain in the butt to try to get the parts in there, because if this was the size and how jammed in there that this thing is right now, it'd be a super big pain in the butt once that's out of the way to try to put the actual coilover in. So always work with your spacers being wide, expecting everything's going to shrink in a little bit. But this is at the point where I might have to take the wheel and spindle off of here so I can get a pry bar up in there to pull that out. And I'm sure it's the same deal with the ones that I put in down here, because they're just hanging in there even with the bolts out too. So it's just a matter of, you know, being aware of that. Also got to come back and I'm going to dress these down, smooth everything out just so it matches all the way around the car. I don't know, it's just, I like the way it looks, and because of the way we're building the tube frame, we've just ended up kind of blending out a lot of the welds just to try to make everything look nice. So we're just going to keep with that theme. Speaking of shrinking due to weld, you can see a little half moon. And we've got it on this side too. And that's just from all of this weld along here. Just kind of pulled everything in a little bit, and that's why the holes don't line up now. But I mean, I just transfer drilled the holes before because I needed them to hold the plate a little bit. So those ones are just going to be a little oblong, which, whatever, it's not going to affect anything. Coilover is getting held by the steel portion. This is just reinforcement with the front plate anyway, and to tie everything in.